All right. So this is going to be something fun to try out. I'm going to try just a little stream here on X and see what it's like. I'm thinking I'm going to go probably till half past the hour, and then we'll call it good. So just a short one, just to get started, and we'll explore here. If people want to jump in and ask questions, then I think there's some kind of way you can do this in X. We'll find out. So I will see what's going on. Yeah, so we'll just go for this. Yeah, still figuring all this streaming stuff out, but I think it'll be fun. All right. So quickly save a few things here. And away we will get started. Okay, so we're in Zed. Great editor, great tool, super fun, and yeah, so it's a good time. And so let's dig into the Shopify CLI here. So Shopify recently made some fairly significant changes. One of those changes is they only now ship the Shopify CLI package. They also ship a CLI kit as well. But the intention is just for all of us to use the CLI package and not have to include any other packages. So you might ask, how does that work? And if you're not familiar with how the CLI works, it's based on Oak and it's an Oak Cliff CLI tool. And if you go to CLI and you go to this index file, let me just pull it up in show in project. I think it's reveal in project panel. Yeah, there you go. So it's just this index file. That's the start of everything. And so here we are. So we've got the app commands, the theme commands, the hydrogen commands. They got some other commands, and these commands then get injected somewhere, which I don't remember exactly where. Yeah, they just get injected. This is the run. Let's just take a look at where this is defined. I think run CLI must be coming from somewhere else. So let's go check that out. Where is that? Just jump to it. Run CLI. Okay, so that's where that is. So it looks like it's just loading some config and doing all kinds of Oak Cliff things, and off it goes. So that's interesting. Yeah, so then these commands are the commands that are actually used. Let me just see here. So this is an exported constant. So let's just see where else it might be used. Let's filter that only to include TS files. And maybe we'll match the case to reduce the number of places that we have to look. So the commands are coming from somewhere. This is definitely them. And they're going to be loaded and injected somehow. And this is how they're limiting, basically taking all the different packages and then allowing them to be used under the common namespace. Because normally the way Oakcliff works is you develop plugins, and then the plugins have their own namespaces, and so on and so forth. And the plugin, the Oakcliff plugin, can actually be its own package, and that is not the case in this anymore. Some of the packages still exist, but the majority of them they don't really want us to use. They want us to use the CLI version. And so, yeah. So let's just go back to index here. These are all the different commands. So with Shopkeeper, what we use is we actually make pretty heavy use of these theme commands. And they're not really exposed anymore per se. So this is actually something I'm taking up with Shopify, that they've removed all those theme commands as like a package that you could depend on. And as a result, if we want to interact with the theme, with the plugin, we kind of have to roll our own thing. There's some lower level stuff in Theme Kit here that we get access to, which is like quite a lot actually. But we don't really get access to what used to be in the theme package. There's some private stuff here, which don't think it's super important. Given that it's NPM, you can crack into it if you had to, but yeah, it's not super important. So got theme commands coming in, and they're just let's go with Shopify theme commands just generally, and let's take a look at them. It's not jumping to the package. Let's go here. We can look at source, and we can look at the index, and here's the commands that are coming in from all the different places. So Shopify is actually really well organized. Each CLI command space or namespace is grouped with name, but then each of those commands is then implemented in a command folder, or in a command folder with a matching namespace. And this kind of follows a convention that is required by Oakcliff. But and each file for example, here's the theme info command. So what you would run, and it defines all the flags and so on and so forth. And all of this, is just defined here. And then what they do is they have very little code here. There's just enough to execute that command. So in this case, it looks like they're actually doing a good amount of the work here. But if we go into something a little bit more, maybe more complicated, like pull is just gonna have some basic service object stuff. It's gonna head off to a service object. So we've got some IO stuff back up here. Jumping off to pre-select this thing. Those will be under, if we look here, there'll be some utilities and services. So if we go to services, you can see the services for that command. So this is like all functions that you would render to do those things. Now, so there's actually something going on in the theme CLI right now, and that is, surprisingly, some of you might not know this, or maybe you do because you run into an error, but the Shopify CLI theme commands have historically been written in Ruby. And if you watch the repo, there's a progressive move to get things into TypeScript, so there's no more extra Ruby stuff going on, which will be great when it's done. But there's obviously it's a chunk of work because there's a lot of good things going on there. And it might actually be finished. One of the ways we can tell if it's finished or not is there's this execute CLI 2 function, and I'm not seeing much of that anymore. So we might be fully migrated at this point. Yeah. Let's just jump over here, see. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's any Ruby left here, which would be pretty awesome, because that was always kind of strange that there was 2 runtimes. Basically, the CLI was a wrapper over a shell for a little bit there. But now that everything is natively TypeScript, that's pretty cool. So what can we tell you about the theme commands? Well, obviously they're all written in the commands directory here. This is a command console. You don't know one's great. You can drop it into your, basically have a REPL into your theme. Delete is an let's see, delete. Pretty simple. Like it says, you parse the flags and then you do some stuff. And then you then you do more stuff. Okay, so this is a great example of a service object right here, delete themes. If we go to this, it's going to be in the services delete, and it's going to have all the behaviors that it needs to do in order to delete it. So that's fun. Yeah. What else can I tell you about Shopify theme? Well, Shopify generally in the CLI uses, I think it's ink under the hood, but it's React components of all things that are rendered into CLI, like standard out characters. They're used all over the place, and if you do a deep dive into render success, we can just dive over there. Let's see here. So render success will render some stuff, and it's worth reading through this if you're doing any IO kind of things within a plugin, because this will be in CLI kit, this UI.tsx. And yeah, there's React components or ink components that you can use to render all sorts of different things. And we tried to use these as much as possible in Shopkeeper, because our goal was to make it feel as natively Shopify as possible. So what else can I tell you? Yeah, so a lot of things are like, if you're doing development or you want to make a change, or you want to see how something works, you're going to be bouncing between this theme command and the theme service, working boom, boom, boom. And then there's also, and then there are also tests that are also written alongside. So they use vtest, which is pretty awesome. We used that on Shopkeeper as well, because we just basically copied all the infrastructure that Shopify was using. And yeah, so you can get all sorts of lovely helpers and nice clean tests. But yeah, so I think you pretty much, there should be a test for pretty much everything now. Historically, there wasn't. Historically, I think some of the Ruby stuff was tested somewhere else, and so there wasn't tests, but it looks like a lot of things have tests now. So that's great. So yeah, just back on the IO topic, they use these render, kind of a render convention. They can say render this, render that, and then they take a big blob of so kind of like a little bit of an AST, just to define the different properties, and then those properties are then kind of interpolated into the components, generating kind of some different portions of it. There is, I'll have to do it on a different time, but take a little bit of prep just to get ready for it. But there are special strings that they have created that allow the colors to be a particular way, and for things to be like links to be formatted a particular way, and those kind of things. like for example, here you would be seeing this command object. So this guy's a string, this guy's a command, and a command would be then treated slightly differently. I'm just going to refresh the stream over here because I really don't know how it's going. I don't even know what it looks like. Okay. Yeah, so. Okay. Yeah. Another interesting pattern within the Shopify CLI is this ensure pattern. You'll notice that they don't have a lot of if statements, like if this input value exists, show this value, show this error message, or show that error message. There's a little bit of that goes on, but a lot of it is actually done through this ensure pattern. Ensure some state of the world, and what it does is, if something, that's where you put your if statements. So you put these in this method, ensure something, 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 take some arguments, and then from the ensure, once you get the data through, then you'll do your ifs, and then you fire this abort error. And if you were to go back through all the different paths in this code base, abort error is kind of this it's an exception that's listened for by the error handling infrastructure, and it gives like a nice output for the errors. And like you can see here, it's got a lot of different formatting. Here's one of those strings that I was talking about, these output contents. So that they're a tagged string that basically allows you to like create different tokens or portions of the string throughout the throughout the string, little nuggets, little tokens all the way through. So this is going to be a shell command that's going to show up differently than just general output, which will be showing up differently than we could probably just look at this, see if, so these are all the different different way things can be formatted. Yeah, so you can see quite a few icons even. Looks like we got diffs now too. Well, that's cool. I don't know when that came in. Oh, a year ago. Never noticed. I was reasonably familiar with this code base when I was building the first and second versions of Shopkeeper, but I haven't looked at every details for a while. But yeah, so there's these fun output strings that allow you to format your outputs, and they're often used in these error handlers or these exceptions, which is then used in the error handling, which then gives you a really nice output, rather than just returning a status code and failing. So that's a very nice piece of architecture there. What else we got? There's some really nice utilities around the theme infrastructure. Some modeling of, I think the models folder is gone, which is, yeah, that's interesting. They just got rid of the models. So there was a command services models architecture, but now it looks like it's just general files under utilities, which I think is fine. But you'll have major topics kind of listed out and all the things related to theme environments and storefront renderer. Okay, this is interesting. Let's see what's going on here. Replace template params, build a header. Oh, that's interesting. Are they hiding the storefront renderer in here somewhere? If so, that could be really interesting. Renders using storefront API. See, this is the fun thing about the Shopify CLI. If you want to know what's coming next, watch the storefront. Sorry, watch the theme CLI, because they always have to put things in here before they announce them, and they work in public. So there's always some stuff coming, and you can kind of see, and it's super fun. Yeah, so that's about the time I've allotted for today. Good test run. I don't think anyone actually watched live, but that's okay. It's good to get the practice talking about these things, and I've got the recording, and we'll share it out at some point. But yeah, the Shopify CLI is great fun. Some really nice work there. I know it's been criticized in the past, but I think the team is working pretty hard on making it great. And as the product, by the product I mean Shopify develops and matures, and you're going to see more and more stuff in here, and it's only going to get better. My only hope and wish is that more of this stuff was a little bit more accessible to us developers who want to build on the platform. I think this is something that I'll probably try to find somebody at Editions to talk about with, but there's a lot that we can do building on these foundations as agencies, as theme developers, as just general Shopify developers. But right now the door for that is closed because of how the code is architected and the packages are no longer being published to NPM. I hope that we can convince them to publish those packages again, because it'd be great to just lean on this code and not have to, write a whole bunch of this stuff from scratch. I think it makes for a better unified process. But anyway, that's a quick overview of the Shopify CLI.